Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called the sons or the children of God." Would you like to be a peacemaker? I'd like to consider today 3 steps to becoming a true peacemaker. Hi, I'm Doug, and welcome to Transformational Talks, because Jesus' teaching was not intended just to inform, but also to transform. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. That beatitude makes me think of a story way back at the beginning of the Old Testament in the book of Genesis. It's the story of Abram and of Lot. You see, Abram and Lot were both wealthy men. Lot was Abram's nephew, and much of their wealth came from the flocks that they owned. And of course, if you have flocks, you need pasture land for your sheep to eat. And the problem between Abram and Lot was that every morning their servants would go out to look for the best pasture land. And Lot's servants would find a spot that looked wonderful, and they would say, "We're going to put our flocks here for the day." And Abram's servants would come along and say, "No, we want this spot because it's the best." And the servants would begin arguing with each other about who was going to get the best spot. Now, I can imagine that Abram, being the patriarch of the family, his servants probably lorded it over the others and said, "Our boss is your boss's boss, so you have to do what we say." And I can imagine that Lot's servants didn't take too kindly to that and probably protested that once in a while they should get the best land. So Abram considered this conflict and evaluated how to make peace. Now, there were a lot of possibilities that Abram could do. Abram could simply go to Lot and say, "We need to stop this bickering. Therefore, my servants are in charge, and they always get to make the decision about where they're going to put our flocks." Or he could have gone to Lot and said, "Lot, let's take turns deciding who gets the best fields." Or he could have gone to Lot and said, "Lot, we're splitting this land down the middle. I'm going to take the nice side. You can have the lousy side." Or he could say, "Lot, I'm going to split this land down the middle, and I will let you choose which side you're going to take." Which of those choices did Abram do? Abram chose the last choice. Extraordinary. He let Lot choose. His idea of making peace was to let Lot choose which part of the property he wanted. And of course, Lot chose the good side. But there was peace, and lasting peace, between them because of it. And there is something in this that I think is good for us to consider. And that is, there are 3 things that every peacemaker does. First, they recognize there is a problem. Secondly, they consider and evaluate a possible solution to the problem. And then the third one, and this is the hard one, they are willing to pay the price for peace themselves. Abram didn't say, "Lot, you take the lousy land." Abram let Lot choose, even though he knew it might be at great cost to himself. And so it is with us. If we are truly peacemakers in this world, we need to recognize when there's a problem. We need to develop solutions, and we need to be willing to pay the price for peace ourselves. And in so doing, of course, we emulate our Savior. And we'll talk more about that next time.
Blessed are the ones who make peace in this world, for they shall be called the children of God. Just as the Son bought peace for God and man, may we bear on ourselves the cross of peace. How blessed to spread the peace grace of Christ on earth, and gain a foretaste of eternal bliss.
Hi, I wanted to jump in here at the end and tell a quick story of something that happened after I recorded the original video. I was recently speaking at a children's camp, and I was telling the story of Abram and Lot. And when I got to the part where Abram divided the land, one of the campers shot his hand up in the air, and I thought, I know what that kid wants to ask. He wants to ask me why Abram didn't split the land the other way. Think about it. If splitting it one way means that it's all good land on one side and all bad land on the other, then splitting it perpendicular to that line results in each of them getting partly good and partly bad land, and it is a more fair division. So I called on the kid, and sure enough, that was exactly what he wanted to say. And I admitted to him that I'd wondered the same thing, but had never tried to find out an answer. And then another camper piped up from the other side of the room and said Abram was just dumb. Now that kind of got my hackles up a little bit. A 10-year-old kid saying that one of the great patriarchs of the Bible was dumb. So that evening, I went to my computer and I pulled up Google Earth, and I pulled up some maps of that area of the world. And based on the landmarks I could find in the book of Genesis, tried to figure out exactly where these guys were. What I found is that on the western side of the Dead Sea, there is a ridgeline of hills. And a ridgeline of hills is a wonderful natural boundary. Because if somebody is standing at the top of the hills and looking towards the sunrise, they know they are looking towards Lot's land. And if they're standing at the top of the ridgeline and looking towards the sunset, they know that they're looking towards Abram's land, and there's no way to mistake what that boundary is. And it should not surprise us that people of ancient times would use natural boundaries whenever they could. Boundaries are hard to maintain. Even in modern times, we use things like rivers and streams and ponds to mark boundaries so that we don't have to set up boundary posts everywhere. It simply makes sense. So no, Abram was not being dumb. But I tell you this because I think it's very important for us to recognize that we all have this tendency to look at someone else and think, I don't understand why they did that, therefore they're dumb, or they don't know what they're doing. When in reality, more often than not, people really do have reasons for the things they do, if only we understood the background, the history, the situation. But we can be very quick to judge instead of asking sensible, reasonable questions. Sometimes when we say they're just being dumb, what we really are showing is that we ourselves are lacking knowledge. It is ungracious to judge somebody off the cuff without trying to understand them. And for the Christian, we are, of course, to be anything but ungracious in this world.